the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Tennessee future bets. I was going through some Heisman stuff. So one of the, Heisman always going to be quarterback centric award. Generally speaking, year in, year out. Jack Foster this year a little bit different with a two-way superstar and Travis Hunter, but that's not going to be the case most years. You'll have a Devontae Smith every now and then, a Travis Hunter every now and then, but by and large, it's a good bet to bet on a quarterback to win the award. And Nico Iamaleava, I haven't said it in a couple weeks, so it kind of stumbles. He is right up there in 2025 Heisman odds. When you look at his body of work in 2024 and thinking about like placing a future bet on Nico for a Heisman run, would you do it? Do you see value in that? Do you see that as a realistic possibility in 25 based on what you saw?
No, I would not. And it's not all his fault. I think Nico's going to grow and be better in 25, but it's just the fact that Tennessee doesn't have incredible weapons at the wide receiver position for Nico to throw to and to elevate his numbers like you see a Will Howard this year, especially down the stretch, what he has at Ohio State. You look at Tennessee, what they lost in the portal, you're not going to be like, oh, wow, that's such a huge loss. Dante Thornton goes to the draft. That was Tennessee's most productive wideout. We'll see what happens with Brew. Brazel's back. And then you have the young trio of Jefferson, Staley, and Matthews. And sure, Mike Matthews can be an absolute star in his sophomore season for Tennessee. But given the lack of certainty within Tennessee's wide receiver room that you're going to get dynamite production out of them, I would not feel comfortable putting my money on a Nico Heisman in 25. I'm kind of in see it to believe it mode. Now, if Tennessee swings and gets a huge land out of the portal here this month at the wide receiver position, maybe I change my tune a little bit. But at the moment, it's just hard to see Nico having that big of a year with what Tennessee has, at the position players in this offense.
Well, it's interesting, too. It's a lot of SEC quarterbacks, like Arch Manning right up there. And we haven't seen him start, a full season yet.
That makes sense.
A lot of kind of like, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see on Arch. I think there's been some positive seeing him, especially with his legs. I think you saw in the game last night, like part of what's going to be interesting with guys like Drew Aller, it's like they're back. Like, what does that look like? Carson Beck now enters the fold at Miami because you saw Cam Ward right there. If he ends up at Miami, if that's his landing spot, or Ohio State, like if he lands it there, one of the two. Texas Tech was, I think, also listed, but I don't know. I'll believe when I see it. Carson Beck and Texas Tech. But it's always a good bet. Like Ohio State quarterback is gonna be right there, or Miami quarterback, and I think if Beck ends up in Miami, I think he's gonna be in that top 5 in terms of best opportunity to win a Heisman. Shannon Dawson, one of the better offensive coordinators in the sport. So I think there's good value there. But you look at where Nico is saddled. John Mateer now coming into the conference at Oklahoma. I think him and Ben Arbuckle, that's an interesting gamble that Oklahoma has a bounce back year offensively. Maybe. We'll see. And then Garrett Nussmeier. It's probably the forgotten one because LSU just had a Heisman winner. And I think, to me, when I think about like where Nico fits in there, it would be like best case scenario, I'd still probably place him behind a Garrett Nussmeier. Like Garrett's probably my favorite early January 10th, 2025, 2026 Heisman contender here.
Yeah, I like Nuss. He's a solid pick. I love Lenore Sellers too. I think there's...
Will they win enough though? That's the thing.
Why not? Dylan Stewart's back. Sellers is there. They can be very dangerous. They won 9 games this year.
I know. Can they do it back-to-back years? Brady Cook, we thought was going to be really good. Like Brady Cook had his final year at Mizzou, not what anyone expected.
Right, I don't think
you lose your OC.
South Carolina's not losing the talent Mizzou lost, especially defensively. And Cody Schrader, say what you want about Brady Cook, but Cody Schrader was the heartbeat of that offense. He was a bell cow for Missouri.
I just think Brady Cook and Lenore Sellers are kind of comparable in terms of what they are as players. Just like the kind of dual threat,
I don't know.
A lot of games. High floor, low ceiling. That's fair. I like them.
Lenore Sellers is also, younger than Cook was entering last year, or is less proven, I should say. And I just think there's a chance he could take college football by storm next year, legitimately. He has that capability. And I don't think these other guys really have that.
That's fair. I think with Nico, it's just this is going to lead into some other stuff we're going to talk about here. It requires you to have a lot of faith in the Tennessee evals from the last 2 years at wide receiver and on the offensive line, because there's no way around Tennessee, Nico being a Heisman contender without internal development from guys that Ellerby and Pope brought in over the last 2 cycles, because those earlier cycles, Leacock, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, a lot of those guys are now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Your transfers are gone. Those early productive transfers, they're gone. This is all internal. Like, this is all outside of Chris Brazzell. These are all internal guys that you've recruited. As of this recording, even Amari Jefferson, technically a transfer, but he was down to Tennessee and Alabama before. Like, that's an eval.
It's basically like a high school. It's basically
right. And he didn't play at Alabama. It just feels kind of like more of a high school commitment from Amari Jefferson.
Yeah.
So this is all your guys. Like, this is all your guys, and we'll see what it looks like. And then on offensive line, like, you're going to have to replace Cooper Mays this year. You're replacing potentially 2 guards. David Sanders, like, hey, you did a lot to retain David Sanders and make sure that he is your tackle, hopefully right tackle from day one of the future. But we don't know. Like, we'll see what he looks like as a true freshman right tackle. Lance Hurd, does he stay? Does he keep the job? Could Bennett Warren slide in there? Jesse Perry, whatever, if Lance Hurd struggles the way he did in 2024, because he did not have a good year in this scheme. Like, I think it just requires so much around Nico to go well that it's not a Nico thing offensively. It's just the stuff around him. I can't do it right now. It's a lot of see it to believe it stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. It's not his fault that he's a bad bet for a Heisman in 25. You're right. It's the rest of the offense. It's just what we've seen specifically in the last 2 years. I will say something that may help Nico's ceiling next year is the absence of Dylan Sampson, because Tennessee may be forced to rely on Nico much more next year. We'll see what the running back room looks like, but right now you got Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop, and neither of those 2 guys I expect to become even close to what Dylan Sampson was this past season. That's just, you can't expect that, or even what Jalen Wright was able to do at times in his Tennessee career. So you look at that running back room, it's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as effective and be able to take over games like Sampson could. Nico's going to have to be the guy for Tennessee next season, as it looks right now. And if his young receivers can take steps and be guys, and Brazzell can take a leap, then maybe it's there. But like you said, it feels like a long shot right now.
The other football one that I think is interesting here, when you look at some future bets, it's like, what would you bet that the Vols add a big name wide receiver? Like, do you think that's still a possibility?
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.